And your choice is you can graph it and solve it. You can factor it and solve it. You can complete the square and solve it. Or you can use the quadratic formula and solve it. That's your choice, okay? It's not saying which way you have to do it. So now is your opportunity to choose whichever way you like to do it best. If I go to factor it, because remember I told you that was my go-to way, okay? And I'm going to try and see if it does factor. My factors of 3 are just 3 and 1. My factors of 2 are just 2 and 1. Well, I'm trying to get a 7 out of it, so I know that somehow I want to get a 6 and 1. So that's the easiest way to get a 6 and 1. So I have 6x and 1x. If they're both negative, it's going to give me a negative 7x when I add them. I check the last to make sure it gives me a positive 3, and it does. So then I turn around and I set them equal to 0. So x is equal to 3, and x is equal to 1/2. There's my two solutions, okay? That's half of the problem. The other half of the problem is then taking this and making sure that when I work this out, I get that, okay? So I turn around and I go, okay, I need to add them. So that's the same thing as 6 over 2. That's the same thing as 3, okay? Since I didn't use a calculator for it, I'm going to do it in my head. So I get 7 over 2. Then I multiply 3 times 1/2. That's going to give me 3 over 2. Okay, as it stands, A would be equal to 2, B would equal negative 7, and C would equal 3. So therefore, I have 2x squared plus negative 7x plus 3 equals y or equals 0. I compare, it's right. I've checked it using sum and product. Okay? Does that make sense? All right, should be all logically together there in your head, hopefully. All right, I'm going to give you one to do, okay? From the beginning to the end. So you solve it, then you check it using those two, all right? Now, it doesn't matter which way you solve it. You solve it whichever way you want, okay? All right, solve and check. Now, remember, you're not done until you show me that part. Check it. All right, what was your solution?
3 1/3.
3 1/3. Now, obviously that solution should, if you use that on those, it would have verified that that was your equation. Okay, so there's no guesswork in it. You know whether you got it right or you gotta know whether you got it wrong. All right, I'm gonna give you one that's gonna be a little bit more challenging, okay? But I have no doubt that you can do it. So here's your equation. So you're gonna need to solve it, then use your sum and product to verify that that's the right answer. but the good thing is when you finish, you should be assured that you got it right because it all worked out. You girl stuck or you got it? You think you got it? No? Okay. Alright. It should be 2 plus or minus the square root of 10 over 5. Are your two solutions? No.
Yeah, I got the solution.
You got the solutions, just didn't get it back. Okay. How did you try and do the solutions? Did you try and do it quadratic formula, factoring?
I did quadratic.
Quadratic formula. That probably would have been the easiest way here. So I would have had a negative 20 plus or minus the square root of 400, because that's what 20 squared is, minus 4 times 25 times negative 6 over 2 times 25, okay? That's going to give me a positive number because I have two negatives back there. So that's going to be 100 times 6, which is going to be 600. So this is going to be 20 plus or minus the square root of 1,000 over 50. Well, I look at 1,000 and I go, what can I multiply together to get one? Because I can't take the square root of 1,000. If you try it, it doesn't come out whole. Okay? So then I turn around and I go, okay, that's the same thing as 20 plus or minus, I can take this as the square root of 100 times the square root of 10 over 50. What's the square root of 100? 10. So I've got 20 plus or minus 10 on the square root of 10 over 50. Now I have to reduce that to lowest terms. So it looks to me like I can divide all three of those numbers by 10, right? So when I do that, I get 2 plus or minus the square root of 10 over 5. Okay? So far so good. All right, so that's what I'm going to put up here. 2 plus or minus the square root of 10 over 5. Now let's work our way backwards.
I know what I did. I forgot to put the square root of 10 on there.
Ah, that would have affected it. All right, so now if I go back and I add 2 plus the square root of 10 over 5 plus 2 minus the square root of 10 over 5. Notice they have a common denominator. So I can write this with a 5 on the bottom as 2 plus the square root of 10 plus 2 minus the square root of 10. What happens to the square roots of 10?
Cancel out.
They cancel out. So I'm going to get 4 over 5. But I'm not set with that yet because remember the A's have to match. So then I'm going to multiply 2 plus the square root of 10 over 5 times 2 minus the square root of 10 over 5. All right, so I'm going to have to do FOIL on the top or Florida on the top because they're conjugates of each other. So I do 4 minus 10 over 25. Okay, with me? That gives me a negative 6 over 25. Oh, wait a minute. The A's don't match. I can't make the 25 into 5, but I can make the 5 into a 25. So I multiply the top and the bottom here by 5, which gives me a 20 over 25. Now I can do my A, my B, and my C. What's my A? 25. What's my B? Negative 20. What's my C?
Negative 6.
And I think if you put it back in the equation form, you're going to find that it matches. Does that make sense? Okay. Same procedure, just be very, very careful. Okay? The more meticulous you are in doing it, the less effort it's going to take to do it. Okay? We good? We understand that? Okay. we're gonna go on, let's see what time it is. We're gonna go on to the next section. We might not do all of the next section, but we're gonna do part of it. And we're gonna, basically, you know how you've got the y equals mx plus b is the standard form for graphing a line. We're gonna have a standard form for graphing a parabola. Okay, now we've had this. Okay, that's what we've worked with, but we really can't graph it easily from that because we remember to graph it, we have to find the axis of symmetry, then we have to plug it back in and solve for the y, put that on there, choose both sides of the vertex to be able to find two other points. Well, what we're going to do today is we're going to get you to the spot where you can see the vertex. Now you're still going to have to plug in points to get the other 2 points, or if it's a parabola that crosses the x-axis, you could put it in the correct form. You could solve it by doing quadratic formula or factoring to find where it crosses the x-axis, and that would allow you to graph it. So you can, it's really going to depend on the equation, okay? Vivian's not going to be happy with these 3 videos. She's